on this episode of Birdcage.
And if that takes some time to ramp up, what's the cost side? Do you have a cost element if that's slow to mature?
The great thing about the waxing and the massage is since they're working on a 50-50 commission, if I don't make money, I don't pay them money.
Do I want to be more attractive by being open 24 hours, or do I want to be attractive by having slightly lower prices but better services? So I try to...
Are you trying to make money?
Yes.
For my investment, what are you willing to give up?
The most.
What's that mean?
You got $100,000, you got to make a decision before you can leave this room and have dinner. Where would you put your money?
I don't feel like that plan is as mature yet.
Agreed.
We had way too many easy questions that we could think of.
You got to really have your stuff together
Yeah.
if you're going to ask anyone to invest $200,000, $300,000, $100,000.
Yeah.
The winner today of the first ever Birdcage. I'm Larry Metzing. I'm a senior partner with Indiana Business Advisors in Indianapolis. We work with buyers and sellers of small and mid-sized businesses in a brokerage capacity. So I get the opportunity to see a lot of small businesses that have been operating for a number of years. Some have been successful and some not.
Hi, my name is Mitzi Short, and I am co-founder and managing partner of New Season Coaching and Consulting Group. It's a boutique consulting firm that works with individuals, teams, and organizations in order to help them optimize their full potential from a performance standpoint. I started the company about 2 years ago after about 28 years in corporate America, 25 years with PepsiCo, and then 3 with Procter & Gamble.
Hello, I'm Phil McPherson. I've been in industrial manufacturing management for over 30 years. Currently the general manager and senior vice president for a packaging company. Our national headquarters is located in Muncie, Indiana, and internationally we're headquartered out of Paris, France.
My name's Will Davis. I'm the current president of the Ball State Innovation Corporation. The university formed a few years ago to commercialize IP that's created on campus, try to take it to market. So we do a fair amount of business planning, thinking, rather routinely as part of the daily job.
I expect to see a very well thought out business plan. One that you've taken every component of that business plan and you've thought it out extremely well.
Looking at each of the individual components of their business plan, the integration of that plan into a solid, holistic business approach. I think that is the next element, the mental integration of the aspects, and the result of that are the financials. Is there a business case that supports and warrants taking the risk associated with any entrepreneurial effort?
My name is Jessica Cantrell and my business is Roots Organic Salon and Spa. I will be planning on opening in about 2 years. I still plan on going to the Aveda Cosmetology Institute to get my cosmetologist license, and then I'd like to work for about a year in the industry to get just some experience under my belt. And I plan on working or opening somewhere in maybe either Fishers, Indiana, or maybe somewhere out northwest if I end up moving out there. The biggest thing to really get my business started is just the experience. Like I said, I really want to work in the industry for about a year after I get my cosmetologist license, just so that I can really experience everything and get to know how everything works in the salon industry firsthand. There's only so much research that you can do, so I think that mainly experience is the main thing that I need in order to get my business running. Hi everybody. My name is Jessica Cantrell, and from the age of 14, I've wanted to own a hair salon. I've always loved doing my own hair and my friends' hair, and I've always engaged in independent research of this industry. According to a report released by JP Morgan, the overall salon industry has contracted by 2% each year for the past 3 years. Now, in stark contrast to this, however, the organic salon segment of this industry has actually expanded by almost 17% each year during the same time period, indicating an opportunity for businesses specializing in these little luxuries of life. My business of Roots Organic Salon and Spa will be a rejuvenating, renewing, and relaxing destination for clients in the growing city of Fishers, Indiana. Currently, there is no other organic salon that uses the quality products that Roots uses and also offers the additional body waxing and massage services that Roots provides. By combining an excellent customer service system, talented salon professionals, and a commitment to the organic lifestyle, Roots will become the #1 destination for clients of Fishers, Indiana and beyond who want to help keep the earth just as beautiful as they are. Thank you so much for your time and for your help in helping me create my longtime dream and passion of Roots a reality. I would now love to take any of your questions.
So one of the big questions I have, if the market is growing so fast, why do you think there's not a location such as this there already?
There are organic salons that are in Fishers currently. The main competitor for Roots is going to be Trichology Salon. They're about 10 miles away from us. They use the same product line. The difference with Roots is the fact that we offer body waxing and massage services. There's no organic salon in this area that offers the additional services we do. And then the other difference is, it seems kind of like with some of the other salons, they are hair salons that use organic product lines. They're not an organic lifestyle-based salon. And the difference is we're going to be more incorporated into different things in the activity, like going to different green-based activities throughout the community, like recycling day and cleanup days at Ritchie Woods, things like that. So we're really trying to get more into the organic lifestyle than just put a product on your hair that says it's organic.
Sounds like a profitable business. That's good. So you started out by saying you welcome the opportunity to introduce us and get our help. What can we do to actually help you? And remind me what you see the startup schedule being. You're going to go to school here in the next little bit. And so go through those two things. I'll have a follow-up after that.
Okay. For my startup, what I'm looking at right now is, like I said, I'm going to be starting July 18th at Aveda, and I can expect to graduate in August of next year from that program. And I would love to start the salon right away, but I don't think that is going to enable me to be as successful as I could be if I stayed in the industry for a year or two before I went to open it. So what my plan is as of right now is to graduate from Aveda and work in the industry for at least a year, maybe 2 if I feel like it's necessary, so that I can gain that real world experience. You can only research so much, so I definitely want to be able to be in the industry and learn how to do things like that. So I think really the main thing I need is experience.
Your graduation, is it August of 2013 or 2014?
14.
14.
Yes.
And then you'd like to have a year or 2 experience from then. So we're talking latter part of 16 perhaps?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I really think that'll position me to be more successful if I take it slow and get my experience under my belt before I start. So
gives you a ton more credibility if you've been in the place.
And I think it brings a clientele. So you have a basis for a starting point.
Yes, definitely.
I thought your competitive analysis was interesting, good. You knew a little bit about each of the competitors, and it's a nice local market. It's relatively easy to get your hands around. When you graded them, you gave yourself a 3 on location, and your competition you gave 4, and so you were ahead on a couple of categories. But when I think about marketing and how you drive traffic in there, besides taking the clientele with you from being an established beautician wherever you are, I just wonder about the trade-off between the location you've currently chosen and a location that's a 4 or maybe even a 5 location. I know there's probably a financial impact to that as well, but did you evaluate other grade A spaces, if you will?
Yes, I did there were a few other spaces. The other ones that I graded, the one that I graded a 4, I believe is Trichology, and it was, that's located on Clay Terrace, which that's a pretty nice location to have. But I did look at other, maybe more populated, more walkable locations that I did like, but the reason why I chose the specific location that I did is because it does have a high traffic count. It's at 116th and Allison Mill Road. It's at that intersection. It's got a 54,000 traffic count. And the main reasoning that I picked that is because out of all of the different things that I could spend a lot of money on, my target market is very willing to travel to a salon that's specialized like this because there is no other salon around here that has the products and the amount of services that we offer. So I've found that my market will be willing to travel to a location maybe that's not at a Clay Terrace or somewhere that's like that. Maybe it's not the best place, but it was still a good location, and it wasn't completely, it wasn't a bad location by any means. But that's why I kind of lowered it a little bit, is because it's not as popular as somewhere like that.
Okay. I think your approach is phenomenal in terms of kind of going to school and then working in the industry. Given your timeline of, it's going to take 2 years, let's just suppose another person opens up a similar organic shop. Mm-hmm. Is it more important? What's the most critical piece of all this to you? The location, or being first mover, mm-hmm. or having the concept or the location? Mm-hmm.
I would say a combination of the concept and location is going to be my biggest piece, because like I said, there is already a salon that does use my same product line. They don't offer my services, but they are organic and they do that. So I think the main thing for Roots is I want us to be the best. I want to be the best one available. And if that were to happen, if someone else were to offer something like this in that area, I might look around at different areas. This area was also chosen. There's a very strong concentration of interested clientele in this area. The market size continues to grow as you get closer. From 15 miles to 5 miles to this location, it gets much more concentrated. So this location is pretty important to me, so I would like to stay at this location, but if someone else were to come along, I would be more than willing to put in the work and find another location that's just as great, if not better. So, but the biggest part to me is more so the concept and doing it really, really well.
Talk to me a little bit about your financials and how you built your revenue model.
Well, the way I did it was I based it on, I found the average number of clients that someone can expect like in a day, and the average amount the average ticket price for each client. And then I divided that out, and I found the capacity levels. I'm not sure if it's on that page, but I found the capacity levels that a new salon can expect during years 1, 2, and 3 to be, those were 55, 70, and 90%.
And where did you get those?
Those were, I had an internship at a salon, and so while I was there, I kind of talked to all of the different stylists that were there about that, and so just basically industry observation and then some statistics that I found during my research was how I came up with those. But so I basically found the revenue amount that can be expected at full capacity, and then I worked backwards and I broke it down according to those capacity levels. Does that answer your question? Okay.
So how many clients would you need to see a day?
I had found that typically there's about 30 clients, but that number is a bit inflated. That's for more of a kind of cut and go kind of Great Clips model, and that's actually the model that had been used in the plan. But now that I've done a bit more research, depending on the type of services that we're providing, it can be anywhere between 5 and maybe 12 per day, and those are clients that are coming in to get a $40 haircut here, and then a $150 highlight next, and that's kind of the model that we can expect. But it's really also, since it is a booth rent salon, it's also very highly dependent on the stylists, because the stylists will be making their own hours. They can come in as they please, and I don't rely on the income so much from their sales. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it'll vary a lot from that, but that's kind of the average that can be expected.
So in your 5 to 12, is that 5 to 12 per stylist?
Yes, per day.
There's a fairly significant portion of income from these waxing and massage.
Yes.
I think similar question, if that takes some time to ramp up, what's the cost side? Do you have a cost element if that's slow to mature?
Do you mean for the?
For the business to absorb. Do you have a cost that you have to absorb at waxing and
Well, the great thing about the waxing and the massage is, since they're working on a 50-50 commission, if I don't make money, I don't pay them money. So that cuts down on me having to pay them in case it's not really working out. And there's a very low cost for those services. You're mainly paying for the person either performing the service of massage or performing a waxing. The wax is pretty inexpensive, and so are massage oils and things like that.
So the business model holds even if that portion of your income lags.
Yeah, it's pretty much gravy on top of everything, so yeah.
How do you plan to structure your capital? You said you need $119,000 or $114,000.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to structure that? Are you going to have some bank financing? Are you going to have equity involvement, injection? Are you going to put money into it?
Yes, I will be putting in $20,000 as just an injection on my behalf, and that is something that I'm going to be working very hard towards during that year or so, probably longer, that I'll be in the industry. But as of right now, I'm operating under the assumption of using a 5-year term bank loan. But I would be more than willing to discuss, if an investor were to make themselves known to me, I would definitely be willing to discuss an equity sharing agreement with that person individually if that were to ever come up.
I'm good. Is there anything, Jessica, you think, any parting messages you want to leave us with?
Well, I do want to say thank you guys very much. I know you guys are really busy, and so thank you very much for taking your time out. And this really is really important to me. Hopefully you guys can see that in me. So just thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
That business has a fairly low entry cost comparatively. And even though the timing might be a little bit out there, that business is really hinged on Jessica's ability to bring in stylists who can also bring in clients. I think the client loyalty to the stylist is something that's been around a long time. And to get people to change stylists because of a location or a product could be a pretty long reach. But to get a stylist to bring her clients into the store is a much more believable. So in my mind, as far as Roots is concerned, it's a bet on Jessica's ability to bring other stylists and their clients to the business.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Kelly, and I plan on starting Aunt Mink's 24-hour child care center in Marion County, Indiana. One of the competitive advantages of Aunt Mink's is being in Indianapolis, Indiana, where they do not offer 24-hour child care services for centers. One of the weaknesses of the center right now is that there is no capital injection, and there is currently no building suitable that will do the build-outs. One of the things that Aunt Mink's requires right now is money and also a director with experience in the industry. It's hard enough trying to find quality childcare when you work traditional weekday hours. But what about those parents who work non-traditional hours, like nights, weekends, or just require overtime? Currently, about 1/3 of our workforce works some form of non-traditional hours, whether it be nights, weekends, or rotating shifts. Yet only a small number of childcare providers offer those non-traditional services. So let's think about it. What happens to the parent who has the opportunity for some much-needed overtime but doesn't have a babysitter? Or what about the parent who had to leave work early again because daycare closed at 6 and the person who said they were going to pick up the kid, they have other obligations. So now they have to leave work just to go pick up their child to take them to another place just so they can finish out their work shift. Or lastly, what about the parent who had to give up on that job promotion because their current childcare arrangements would not accommodate that new schedule? These situations happen all too often, but not anymore. Now there's Aunt Mink's 24-hour child care center, soon to be synonymous with Here When You Need Us. We'll be serving the Marion County, Indiana area, servicing a market of parents who are underserved in that area. So invest in us so that we can invest in them.
I love the model. I know my brother and sister-in-law are looking for childcare now. How are you going to find people to work the graveyard shift at the daycare center?
Well, I'm working on, it's going to be tough, but I spoke to a few people, and one of the things that I want to do is kind of create a relationship with maybe like Ivy Tech and get some of their students in for practicum or things like that. So I'll always have, I don't want to say like a streamline of teachers, but a place to go to kind of get them in. And those students, they say, usually work those non-traditional hours, actually, who would need it. But if they're in a center, they can get their hours completed. So that's one way.
When I look through some of your projections, talk to me about how you came up with your levels of pay for these teachers.
Okay, so I tried to ask some of the child care providers to kind of tell me what they pay their teachers, and I couldn't do that. So I had to kind of, I don't want to say sneak and ask teachers. The internship that I worked at, they were very, very low paid. And then another center I just kind of told them what I wanted my number to be, and she said just use that. I really didn't have a base to go off of.
So do you think, tell me what you think, and I'm looking for it here, I recall looking at what you were going to pay your teachers.
Lead teachers were $10 an hour, and then assistant teachers were going to be $9 an hour, and then if you worked at night, then there was a 50-cent shift differential. But for the quality and the level I want my teachers, especially my lead teachers, I'm going to have to almost double that.
Yeah, I was going to say, in your financial projections, when I think about a teacher at that level, that was the first thing that popped out at me.
Right.
$10 an hour, there's just almost no way.
Right.
Talk to me about your marketing. How are you going to market this business when you think about getting started?
You mean advertising?
Yeah,
So that,
or your marketing.
I'd say I put newspaper ads. I've got flyers. I decided to do something, I wanted to do something cool, so I wanted to, or I budgeted for, getting like some custom-made little crayons made and then taking them to different restaurants in the area and then have them give them out on nights that families are most likely to eat, like Wednesdays when kids eat free, or like Saturdays and Sundays and stuff like that. So,
do they enroll and say, I'm going to need your services from 8 to 12 every Thursday night, or do they just kind of show up when they need the services? I called an hour before and you're open, or how?
So here's how that would work. So for most parents, or let's just say you only needed Monday through Friday, you would come in, you would enroll and say, these are my normal hours. And then we'd enroll that child from Monday through Friday in whatever classroom that's in. But if you had an emergency, say, and you needed care on Saturday, if you called an hour before and we had room, of course I'd have to have teachers on call, but you have to have a minimum of 2 people at the center at all times if it's open. So what would happen is you'd have to pay that $30 surcharge fee, and then for whatever services you need for that day. So if you only needed 3 to 4 hours, then you pay an hourly rate. If you want to pay part-time for Saturday, it's that surcharge plus that.
So how do you adjust your staffing based on your enrollment going up and down all the time? Did you factor that in here?
I factored in, depending on how many kids I had and what room, I based my teachers off, or how many teachers I would need off of that. How and when and overlapping. So say if a kid was there, because you get 10 hours of service if you're full-time. So if you were there from 7 in the morning till 5, but a teacher has an 8-hour shift, I was trying to figure out how to close that overlap gap, and I haven't figured it all out yet. But I know for the amount of children I have the right amount of teachers to match that.
And if I had a child in for full-time, Monday through Friday, 8 hours, what's the cost? What would it
what's
cost
the
me?
age?
Let's 2, 3-year-old, non-school age, yeah, non-school age.
I think it was $265 for a week, for 10 hours full-time a day, Monday through Friday.
So $11,000, $12,000 a year.
About. And I called centers in that area to adjust my prices to make sure I was in that range. And actually, that's
pretty competitive?
I think so. A lot of them said that's kind of on the, I don't want to say the low end, but a lot of them are $300 and up for an infant for a week.
So do you just want to be 265, or are you trying to get to?
Well, I try to figure out, okay, do I want to be more attractive by being open 24 hours, or do I want to be attractive by having slightly lower prices but better services? So I try to,
Are you trying to make money?
yes. But starting out, I thought 265 was about right starting out.
And do I have any other costs that come with that? For example, you were going to feed the infant, we're going to change the infant. Are there other costs, or are they all included in the 260?
No, the only thing that you would provide for an infant is the formula. I'm not doing formula anymore, but I do diapers. Because formula is picky.
Yeah.
The 265 numbers, though, were based on the staff making 18, the lower number, right?
Wait, you mean the lead teacher or the assistant
Lead
teacher?
teacher.
The lead teacher?
Is-
In the plan, it was 10.
Okay, and you were saying those were too low.
Yes. So, okay, so when I talked to another teacher, and she said that she's got a friend who has her bachelor's degree and works in Indy, and she makes about, I think she said like $13.50 or $14 about that. So.
But you're saying that's going to come around in the
It's
price.
gonna come around.
roll
It's gonna
through,
come around
yeah.
into the price, and then I would think in terms of staffing, like where you see yourself going for the bulk of your staff. Where's your pool of talent to staff your locations?
I haven't figured that out yet.
What type of people?
You mean
What type
teacher or
of
what the qualifications are?
Yeah, what type of person are you looking for? Are you looking for a elementary school teacher? Are you looking
Yes.
for a
Or early childhood ed, yeah.
okay, or a nurse? It's kind of like who are you looking for? What else would they be doing if they're not working at your daycare center? Are they working at McDonald's?
No, I guess they'd be
Well, that
working
gives you
at
a frame
school or
of
in
reference,
school.
right? Mm-hmm. So that gives you a frame of reference in terms of price, because the minimum wage at McDonald's is $8.65, $9. So you're talking a dollar more, right? So you potentially have some room there.
Yeah.
If you want to attract the people that you're looking for.
Right.
When you looked at your
good.
financials, did you look at your financials compared to industry comps from an expense standpoint, how your projections measured up to your industry at that level?
Just from the centers, I only got numbers from a couple of centers. So what I had to do, and they only gave me, so like one center may have gave me a couple of their utility bills. So I kind of had to piece an average. That's just what I did.
What about using information that's available like RMA, the Risk Management Association,
I didn't use
or
that.
Robert Morris? Okay.
I love your concept. I think it's spot on in terms of a need for it. And I like the way you talked about how you could identify students who actually need to do this type work for internships or class credit, because if you could establish a relationship with a school like that, that will create a steady pipeline of good, dependable employees for you.
Yeah. And the requirements for Ivy Tech in their program is actually pretty good. I talked to one of my early ed teachers, and she kind of works with them, and the hours that they do and the experience that they have is actually dead on. And she said, you know, dealing with Ivy Tech, a lot of those students want to work, and I don't want to say she said they'll work for nothing, but they will work.
I think it's a societal problem. I think your problem statement, there's a need. It's a complex problem, I think was said earlier. There's a lot of complexities to it. You know, from a parent standpoint, you're dealing with our most precious assets. So I think there's going to be high expectations. But there's some business complexities that that really are going to add a degree of effort on the management side.
Any other questions, thoughts?
I'll bet there's stuff we should have asked that we didn't, right?
Thank God.
Well, what would you?
What else should we know?
That I need money, and I'm gonna start it, and I'll work for it. And this is me. Like, I've felt this, I've worked for it, I know this, I need it, and it's not here. So I just kind of had to look at it like, well, just help yourself first, and then you'll help people along the way. So, you know, this is me on a poster board.
That's great. I think
Very
you got
well
a great
done.
concept.
Yep,
Well
I
done.
did. It's a definite need.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I liked her plan because it wasn't a Me Too business, and it is a very difficult business.
The strength of that is the need.
Absolutely.
I do think there's a need there. certainly a strength married up to that development of the business plan, I think is necessary before we make an investment there.
Yeah.
I plan to start James Dant this fall. That's going to be a great time to open a business in the area of Mass Ave, the small indie urban eclectic area of Indianapolis. The strengths of this business are the fact that I'm putting in a passion and love for something that I've had since I was so young. After that comes the market and industry research that I've done, and that will really help push forward the business. When we get into some of the weaknesses, the volatility is one of the biggest ones. The industry changes so much, I have to stay on top of a lot of things that a lot of other businesses don't. Imagine walking into a store and being surrounded by only men's clothing. Now you may be thinking, I can get that at a Men's Warehouse or some other formal wear shop, but I want you to flip your perspective for me. And imagine walking into a clothing store and being surrounded by the stuff you see here, all on rustic, rugged, do-it-yourself type fixtures like you might see on a do-it-yourself show or Pinterest for some of my younger crowd. And then lastly, I want you to imagine listening to some of your grandparents or dad's music, and then maybe something that you heard earlier today on the radio or something you've never heard before. Now you can stop imagining because you're starting to get a picture of what James Dant, the clothing store is. My name is Thomas Dant. I'm here today to tell you why you should be interested in an expandable new store that features modern apparel with that nostalgic store feel I just told you about. Women already have the option of walking into a plethora of clothing stores and being able to get whatever they want. Men don't. We have to search from store to store and through websites where we can't even try on the clothing just to get that style and what we want. Men already face struggles when it comes to dressing well, like finding the right styles and finding the right fits, and then trying to put that all together in something that resembles an outfit. So why make it any harder like my competition does by pushing those clothes to the back of the store and paying little to no attention to the customer? James Dant will provide a personal shopping experience and in-store atmosphere that draws in that modern and eclectic male. By doing this, we will become the first truly recognizable, men-only, urban, indie, and casual clothing store.
Thomas, talk to me a little bit about in your projections, talk to me a little bit about your revenue projection model. Just tell me how you developed what your revenue each year.
I first started by looking at some of the industry standards, and I saw that they were pretty high, around 1.3 million a year. And I figured that I could get to that point, or I know that I can get to that point. And then I decided I wanted to break it down based on the amount of the total population. I wanted to do a top-down method to get to my sales. So I took the total population and then factored in some things like what percentage of men in a survey that I did said they would shop at my store, some other things about the population and single income households that match my target market, and that's how I got down to those numbers. And then I asked myself, does this pass the common sense test? Can a store in this area do $500,000 in sales in the first year? And I looked at places like Mass Ave Toys, which is doing $2 million in sales, and a little small women's boutique that's doing around $600,000, or a children's boutique. And in my mind, it started to pass the common sense test, and I knew that I could grow from there once I start to learn the market. And that's where the sales increased to 700 and 800 after that.
I think the trend's in line. I think the location fits the trend. I like those two elements. I'm a bit concerned about inventory management, whether it's turns or just obsolescence. As the seasons turn, and what do you do with that inventory as you have to bring new inventory in? Does that just grow and grow, or the inventory management piece? I'm a little concerned about the purchasing power. You know, some of the stores you mentioned have some pretty heavy volumes from an economy of scale standpoint. They're going to leverage that from a pricing standpoint. What is it you need to get started?
As of now, I'm looking for $180,000 to get started. It has changed since you guys got the plan. I've been talking to someone that opened their own boutiques, and they said that they needed a lot more volume to get started. I changed it to the point where I have 6 months expenses in advance, with that $180,000 loan, and then the $30,000 that I'm putting in myself as a capital injection keeps the cash flow. It keeps the cash flow at around $8,000. It's gone above that a little bit, but I've been really working with the numbers since I've had a lot of evaluators look at the plan, and it's gonna continue to change and grow until I know specifically within the next month or two what I need to lock down and what I need to ask for from a bank loan.
So you're talking about putting a total of $210,000 in, $30,000 of your own equity, and $180,000 in the form of a bank loan or equity?
Yes.
Okay.
How much equity would you be willing to give up in exchange for that 180?
Well, in evaluating the company, I'd say that $180,000 is probably worth 30% of the company. I've thought about it. I'm willing to work on the numbers, and I know a lot of people have expertise that could help me in the areas, and I would also want a buyout clause though, because I do want this to be it is my baby already, so I want it to be fully my baby one day, but I know I need that capital investment at first.
If 40 people came in, how many would have to buy on average in order for you
to reach my sales for the
hit
week?
your sales goal?
Well, the average ticket price is around $185. It seems a little high, but that's with people buying outfits, and it's all variable depending on how they buy. If they're buying smaller ticket items, it would reach up into the 20s. But when they're coming in and I'm providing that personal shopping experience, it needs to be around a fourth to half of that, half of what comes in. It might be a little bit high, but around a quarter of what comes in needs to buy.
Back up a little bit on you're talking $180,000 that you're looking for from some source. Now, is that a combination of potentially bank loans along with some equity?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think out of the $180,000 that you need outside? You've got, you say 30, and it sounds like you have experience in the industry. You've actually worked in the business?
Yeah, I've worked, not men's clothing, but in a mall and in a shoe store, yes.
Okay. Well, that's the first qualifier for the financing pieces. Do you have any kind of experience in the industry? So you certainly do. Let's take your $180,000. I'm curious, what do you think, based on your preliminary search, how much do you think you're going to be able to actually borrow on some type of loan out of that 180?
I'm hoping all of it, and I have the backing to get that too. The $30,000 is going to come from me as a capital investment, but to get the $180,000, I'll have 10% down in a family investment.
Okay.
But I would love to get as much in capital as I can from by not paying for that loan, by not paying that much interest in someone that wants to invest.
So are you, get the clarification, are you saying that by having 10% to pledge against, you think you get 100% of the loan? Is that what you're thinking?
I meant 10 to 20, but yeah, depending on who I get to work with, the contact that I have for the small business loan may help me get it at a lower rate. I know the small business loans kind of help with that, lowering the rate a little bit, but in between 10 and 20, yeah, 10 and 20 down.
Larry might speak to that more authoritatively than I, but I think
I
that is pretty unusual.
I can. That won't happen.
Yeah.
Really?
I can tell you right now, you're looking at a startup loan. It would be a totally different situation if you were buying an existing business that had existing cash flow,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. So when you're looking at, and I assume you're talking about an SBA loan.
Yes.
Okay. With an SBA loan on a startup, number one, you're going to be looking at 30% equity. So you're going to have 30% equity in the deal. So if you're looking to borrow $150,000 from them, you're going to have $45,000 in equity, okay, in that ballpark someplace. So I guess it sounds to me like, if you're realistic on this, I would assume you can get a loan at some level. It won't necessarily be based on your inventory, because that won't be enough for you.
Yeah.
You're going to have some startup money, some working capital money in there, but on the $180,000 that you need, let's just assume for a second that you're probably going to be able to borrow maybe $120,000 of that. You're still going to need $60,000. In addition to the 30 you already got, you're going to need $60,000 in hard and cold cash equity. So I guess my assumption is that you might be talking to us about that $60,000 equity. If you are, and I don't know quite how you came up with your valuation methodology, that if 30,000 or 30% is worth 180,000, that leads me to believe that your enterprise value would be about $600,000 roughly.
Yeah.
So how do you convince me that your business is worth $600,000? Because that's what it's going to have to be worth if I'm going to get 30% of it for $180,000.
It's in the potential of the business.
Okay,
but
but based on what valuation model? I mean, what do you think businesses like yours? Let's just say that you are successful, and I'm looking at your numbers here that you project. You're projecting $561,000 in revenue year one. Has that changed based on?
That has not changed.
Okay. And you're talking a net income of $4,000. Let's just go to the third year, which is a really good year. You're at about, what, $800,000 in revenue? What's your net income?
That's, it jumps up from there to, if I could see it.
88,000.
80 there, yeah.
Okay, so and now, are you taking a salary out in that 88,000? Are you taking a salary out of the business?
Yes, in
How much?
The first 3 years, it's 50,000.
Okay. So if I were looking at the valuation on your business, because I'm looking at investing money, I'm saying if you really make the 88,000 in net income, you're taking 50, that gives you what I would call a seller's discretionary cash flow of $130,000. Now that is how I'm going to value your business, and I can tell you that's how the bank's going to value your business, and they're not going to loan you more money than the value of your business.
That 50,000 is already taken out in expenses.
What's that?
The 50,000.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm adding it back.
Oh, you are?
I'm giving
Okay.
you that as cash flow. So I'm saying 88 plus your 50 puts you up to, let's say, $140,000 in cash flow. The valuation model for a business that's a retail business that's doing $140,000 in cash flow, your business, if you tried to sell it tomorrow afternoon and it was that good, would be worth about $300,000 to $400,000. So now, for my investment, what are you willing to give up?
The most.
What's that mean? For my investment, what are you willing to give up?
The most.
What's that mean?
The most I'm willing to give up is going to be just enough to keep me in majority share of the business.
49%?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's honestly to get the business off the ground, just because I'm that confident in that it's going to take off. But I want to keep the majority share of the business.
Okay, I respect that.
Is there anything that you'd like us to know as potential investors that you haven't communicated?
That I am working really hard, that I'm pushing this forward, and even if I don't necessarily have all of the numbers together now, they will be, and this is going to happen. So, if you guys are looking to invest in something that's going to start and grow and be something big, then I would love to keep in contact with you guys.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Well done.
His initial projections were probably a little overshooting the runway. His long term, I mean, to do $1 million in that store, that'll be hitting it pretty hard. So I'm not really sure that's realistic, but I also know it can be very profitable. Even
Right.
down at 500,000, I know enough about the financials to know that he will be more profitable actually than he thinks he's going to be if he does it right.
Yeah.
Coming up next on Birdcage.
You got $100,000. You got to make a decision before you can leave this room and have dinner. Where would you put your money?
I don't feel like that plan is as mature yet.
Agreed.
We had way too many easy questions that we could think of.
You got to really have your stuff together
Yeah.
if you're going to ask anyone to invest $100,000,
Right.
but $200,000 or $300,000.
Right.
You better really have it together.
So we kind of like it's down to 2 then?
What it is for me, the winner today of the first ever birdcage.
So Larry, so let's just say you have $100,000. We've heard 3 great proposals and plans today. You got $100,000. You got to make a decision before you can leave this room and have dinner. Where would you put your money? You can only do one.
I think that's the way I've got to get my mind into a situation where I've only got $100,000. I can only put it in one deal. I can't put $30,000 in each one because that doesn't make any sense.
I think the Dant clothing store has the best, it's the most robust and nearest term. Fewer things can change between now and the time you're going to start it. And I feel like there will be, I would say that, several months from now, we'll go down on Mass Avenue and we'll find that store. It'll be there. It'll look a lot like what we saw today. His vision is very, very clear. He's very driven, and it's been unswerving.
I think the fact that he had worked in the industry too, he had done some, had some skin in the game. That's his first time. So I had a sense that he had a good feel of what he knew and what he didn't know, and who to ask, right? So the inventory questions and spending time in the buying, and having worked in the shoe store, I thought comfortable with that.
One of the things I was encouraged about his financials was in his pricing model. I felt like his prices were pretty moderate for what he's going after.
brands.
Yeah.
So I think he may have some upward price elasticity that he may benefit from long term. There are several things about that. Again, if it was only as good as he said, it'd be pretty good. But I think there's room for it to be better, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
You see these and say, okay, 12 months from now, 24 months from now, with a person going out to do the cosmetology school and get some work experience, where would you invest $100,000 2 years from now?
Actually, her model is probably very financeable because of the way she's going to do it. She's going to go out, she's going to build her resume, so when she goes to the SBA lender for that initial loan, which she'll cover that easily, when she goes to that SBA lender and she's got a resume that's got 2 years experience, and she's already got 3 stylists that have committed to go with her, she's going to get the loan to do that business.
Well, the other piece too, talking to her background, her initial intent was just to go to cosmetology school, right? So she would just be like every other cosmetologist, right? But the fact that she has a 4-year degree with entrepreneurial major is huge.
She is
particularly
not
when
your normal stylist.
Exactly, and so when you look at her ability to succeed in the workplace, given the fact that she's got a different background and different perspective, she'll be able to attract a different type of a different caliber person as well.
Yeah, they'll have confidence in her ability to run that shop and do what they need to do to make them a lot of money.
That's
So
right.
just like the bank that would be more comfortable with that plan and with her in 2 years, so will I.
Yeah.
That experience is priceless, as they say, and the education and experience together that she's going to get in the next 2 years and carrying in a clientele that you suggested, I think it's super important.
I like all of them. They're all so different. I think to me the lowest risk one is the clothing store at this point. But I think the biggest, boldest, audacious, clear consumer need that's not being met is with the 24-hour daycare.
I like that analysis too. I think that's probably the right way to say it, right order. I don't feel like that plan is as mature yet.
Agreed.
We had way too many easy questions that we could think of that we didn't really know the answer to, hadn't quite gotten the research done to. So just the maturity of the plan, it's a great pond to fish in, and I think we ought to figure out what the right bait is and the right technique, but it's not quite as mature as either of the other two, I don't think.
You got to really have your stuff together if you're going to ask anyone to invest $100,000,
Right.
but $200,000 or $300,000.
Right.
You better really have it together. And if you're going to go to a bank, you better really have some good projections. And the big one, which I asked her about comps because the bank, the first place they're going to go when they look at her financial statement, they're going to pull out the RMA comps, and they're going to look at $1 million daycare centers, and they have a ton of data that says your percentage of revenue of your this line item, this line item, this line item better be right here, and if it's not, we got a lot of questions. Well, hers wouldn't. First of all, she didn't even look at that. So I mean, she's got a lot of homework to do if she's going to do that business.
So we kind of like it's down to 2 then?
Well, it is for me.
Okay.
I don't know about the rest of you.
I'm there, you're there?
Yeah.
And
Okay,
I was torn between the two as well. You certainly applaud Root's owner for understanding the need to go get the personal touch. I think that's, a very critical element of her success. And she'll experience things over those next couple of years that'll be preventing whatever obstacles might come up. She'll experience those and already have prevented those. So I really like that. I can see that one, and I can see it being a profitable endeavor. The only thing for me between the two really is the timing. I think the clothing store, the logo's good, the location's good, the trend is good, the time is now, the casualization effort, I think the time is now. For me, the only real two differences between those is the timing.
Yeah, I'm not. I guess I'm just not sure it's fair to penalize
I agree.
the Roots because she's going to do it right and do it in 2 years. So
it's a fair point.
Yeah,
It is.
I'll give you just a little bit of an idea of the mindset that I think we had to get in order to make what I consider to be an extremely difficult decision.
So let's just say you have $100,000. We've heard 3 great proposals and plans today. You got $100,000, you got to make a decision before you can leave this room and have dinner. Where would you put your money? You can only do one.
But at the end of the day, after a lot of debate and deliberating,
I think the biggest, boldest, audacious, clear consumer need that's not being met is with the 24-hour daycare.
I don't feel like that plan is as mature yet.
Agreed.
We had way too many easy questions that we could think of. The Dant clothing store has the best, it's the most robust and nearest term. Fewer things can change between now and the time he's going to start it.
his initial projections were probably a little overshooting the runway. His long term, I mean, to do $1 million in that store, that'll be hitting it pretty hard.
That business has a fairly low entry cost comparatively. And even though the timing might be a little bit out there, that business is really hinged on Jessica's ability to bring in stylists who can also bring in clients.
Actually, her model is probably very financeable because of the way she's going to do it. Did come to a winner. As I mentioned before, all of you are winners. One of you is going to get the winner's plaque and I guess some money to go with that. The winner today of the first ever birdcage is Tommy. Congratulations, Tommy. You two made it extremely difficult for us, without question. Let me just start by indicating to you that you, all three of you, as I said earlier, all three of you made this a very, very difficult decision for us. To sit here and have to select 1 and 2 among these 3 plans was extremely difficult. You all three did an extremely good job. As I mentioned during our deliberations, you come in here thinking something and then you leave thinking something else, and sometimes that happens, and you're all to be commended on making us think.
I was really impressed today with your presentations. The work is evident, and I think you can all three be very proud of your efforts. I think you've represented the university very well, you've represented the program very well. You should be proud of that as you go forward.
I too want to congratulate each of you on a phenomenal job. Your plans were top notch, and I think the passion in which you delivered your message and answered questions and really told your story today really showed through. So you should feel proud individually. You should feel proud of what you've done for the school and how you represented yourself and your family. And I think you each will do phenomenally well with your business plans, and I'm hoping to hear great things from each of you down the road.
I'm most pleased because I actually think these are actionable plans. I have been through a lot of entrepreneurship competitions, and I don't really think all of them are ever going to amount to anything. I think all three of you, because it's such a deep personal passion, as well as you put together an economic model that may make it sustainable. I think these are really, really high probability events are going to happen.
So I guess maybe opportunity for you to share some feedback with us on your experience, the program, what you would say to the next class coming through.
Work really, really hard because it obviously pays off in the end. You can see from what us three have accomplished that it's worth it. It's a long road. There's the dip that we have all gone through, but it's totally worth it in the end.
You get out of it what you put into it, and I know that if we hadn't done the work we had done, we wouldn't be standing here. And I mean, I know that we've all done the work to deserve to be here, and I think that, you know, next year's class and everything, they just really need to, you know, stick with it and do what you want to do.
You all three did a great job. We're very, very proud of you.